104.1 Riverwest Radio. My name is Kyle, and my co-host Christian is joining me from our sunny Los Angeles, California studio, aka he's in a hotel room. Before we begin, the show is brought to you in part by Pete's Pub on the corner of Brady Street in Arlington. Pete's Pub offers daily food specials, daily drink specials, weekly trivia, and much more. More information available at Pete'sPubOnBrady.com. Christian, how are you doing today, big guy?
I'm all right. I'm trying to figure out these little audio. If it's coming a little scratchy, that's my fault. I'm all right. I'm tan, man. It was a long drive to get out there. Phoenix was torture.
But, welcome back to the show. You were not a part of the interview last week, but you made it back just in time for the biggest episode of the show to date. I mean, we've got a very, very special guest today. I know we say that about all of our guests. But damn, I would say today we actually do have the biggest guest in show history. He's the mayor of Milwaukee. I guess that's probably the simplest way I can introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Cavalier Johnson. How's it going?
Hey, guys. I'm doing all right. Kyle, Christian, hope you guys are doing well. It's a great day in Milwaukee, and I'm happy to join you guys.
Yeah, and we're very happy to have you. So first off, what would you like us to call you? Mayor Johnson, Cavalier, Chevy?
I answer to them all, so whichever comes out, I'll answer.
Whatever you're comfortable. Okay. Well, first off, yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. So far, just to give you a rundown of who we've had, we interviewed a Milwaukee YouTuber, the Milverine. We did a sit-down interview with the Milverine in studio. He's an interesting guy. Bart Lundy, who's the men's college basketball coach at UW-Milwaukee. A pro wrestler from AEW. Last week I talked to Pastor Ken Locke. I know that you and him are friends. So how does it feel for you to be the biggest guest in the history of our show?
It feels good. Although if you interviewed a pro wrestler, I assume they're probably physically bigger than me. Although I'm a WWE guy, but that's okay.
He lied about his height, but that's okay.
Yeah, but speaking of that, so I actually, my friend and I, Chris, we sat pretty much just a couple seats down from you and your family when you were at SmackDown at Pfizer. You and I shook hands. You know, when they announced you, you got kind of booed by the crowd, which I thought was funny. I would love to be booed by a pro wrestling crowd. I would take that as like an honor. So are you disappointed that you don't have the pro wrestling audience vote, or you not that night you didn't?
The crowd that we draw in for pro wrestling in Milwaukee is more regional, and at that time it was just right after the election, and right. In the surrounding parts of Milwaukee, there were a lot of folks that were looking to vote for my opponent. If it was a purely city of Milwaukee vote, I mean, or cheer or boo or whatever. Yeah. I presume that I would have gotten about 72% of people cheering me. So.
And yeah, Chris, if you don't get that, that's the percentage she won by.
I kind of put two and two together. Yeah, that makes sense.
So are you?
Congratulations, by the way, on that.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I guess first is it being the mayor fun?
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. It's a big, difficult, challenging, complex but rewarding job too, and certainly it's fun. I mean, even this right now, being on with you guys, anytime I get the chance to talk about pro wrestling on an interview is fun for me. So
yeah. And who was your favorite? Did you grow up watching pro wrestling?
I did. My favorite is Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid.
Oh, good pick.
My mom likes him.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. He was a bad boy in the mid-90s.
I know he was. He turned it around later on in life, but like Michael Jordan of wrestling, like the best. I know Bret Hart's got the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, but to me, that's Shawn Michaels. That's HBK.
Yeah, when I was growing up in the 90s, my brother and I, we were Bret Hart kids, and as I got older, The Rock, obviously. He might be our president someday. Who knows, right?
We'll see about that.
Unless he runs against you.
That'd be an interesting ticket to be Johnson versus Johnson.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he gets to go by The Rock, like President The Rock. I don't know if it works like that.
I once ran a Chevy, so we'll see. I don't know, man.
Yeah. What's your least favorite thing about being the mayor?
my least favorite thing about being the mayor. I don't know as I have a least favorite thing. I've just been so busy with the job, day in and day out. I mean, it's a 7 day a week, basically 24/7 job. And I say 24/7 because, I mean, I'll get, even in the middle of the night, reports from police when something happens, in the city. So I haven't really had the time to think about, my least favorite thing about the job, just because I've been so inundated with doing it.
Right. Do you have like a bat phone set up in your house now that you're the mayor where they can reach you? Like lights go off or something when they need you at like 3 a.m?
You're hitting on all the cylinders here, man. I'm a big WWE fan, and I'm a huge Batman fan as well here.
That's superhero for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they can reach me at any time. I've got a couple of cell phones, and folks can reach me. And if they don't reach me, then they touch base with my chief of staff, who follows up with me then.
And so I also was at the Wiz Khalifa, Lil Wayne, and Wu-Tang Clan show with my girlfriend at Summerfest. Looks like you and your wife had better seats than me, which is kind of a show-off move on your part. But did you have fun? Did you like that show?
I loved it. As a matter of fact, DJ Bazan, who was DJing throughout the night, I just saw him again a few nights ago at the Mandy Awards, and this is kind of like the Oscars, and I said, man, dude, you're like a Swiss Army knife. Like you're DJing for Wiz Khalifa and Wu-Tang and Lil Wayne, and then I turn around and you're at the Mandy's. Like you could just do it all. But we had a great time. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So you were born and raised in Milwaukee. You grew up in the infamous 53206 zip code, which is like the roughest area of the city. I guess, what was your childhood like? I know you're one of 10 siblings. You got 10 siblings, or one of 10?
Yeah. So my parents separated when I was 3, so I've got some siblings on my mom's side, some siblings on my dad's side. I'm the second oldest on both sides. What was my childhood like? It was 53206, right? And we moved around a lot when I was a kid. So, I mean, I lived in 53206 in a number of different. Yes. And so start a school year, then get plucked out and shipped across town to go to another school and, build up another, group of friends. And then by the time next year rolled around and you started school, you get plucked out and sent to another school on the other side of the city. So that wasn't fun. I mean, I saw a lot of things, unfortunately, that we see on the news, tonight, whether it's violence, domestic or otherwise. I saw, my brother being jumped, before. I've seen, people pull out guns and shoot them. I saw a lot of bad things, and so those are the things that encourage me in my job as mayor to work to make sure that kids in Milwaukee don't see those things in the future. Now, this is something that has been in the works for a long time, and so it's not going to be solved overnight. But that's what fuels me to do this job, is so that no other kid, when they're in the 4th grade like I was, sits on their porch on 21st and Clark like I did, and think to themselves they want better for their family and their neighborhood because they're surrounded by poverty, which then leads to violence. I don't want that for kids.
So how did you become interested in politics? Was that something like at an early age, or?
Yeah, 2 things happened that got me interested in going into politics. One is that in 2001, in February 2001, I was recruited to this pre-college program that was run by the YMCA. It was called Sponsor a Scholar, and the goal of that program was to get young people from low-income families in Milwaukee public schools to go off to college, be the first person in their family to do that. And I still, by the way, wear this green YMCA wristband every day because that's how I got my start. The other part of that same program was to get those kids involved in service projects and giving back. And I really, really fell in love with helping out folks in the neighborhoods all throughout Milwaukee doing service projects. Then later on that same year, in 2001, 9/11 happened. And I watched President Bush at the time go to what was left of the World Trade Center, Ground Zero. And in my 14-year-old brain, the light bulb just went off. And I said, I could have a career in government where I could wake up every single day and help people like I fell in love with doing at the YMCA. And so from 14 years old on, and I'll be 36 this year, I never stepped away from that focus, and that's how it started.
Right. Yeah, I worked. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to ask, do you think if those moments wouldn't have happened that you would have still continued with government or gone into that, or was that really like an impetus that made you, follow that path?
Yeah, no, I think that those moments in the sequence that they happened in that same year, so close to each other, that's what put me on this path. If it were not for those incidents, who knows if I'd be sitting right here as mayor. Heck, I'd probably be Rey Mysterio's tag team partner in WWE since we're about the same size.
You're bigger than Rey Mysterio. Come on.
All right, I'll give it.
So, you graduated high school in 2005. You went to UW-Madison for political science. I used to live in Madison for a while, probably about 3 years I lived there. Fun city. So what was your college years like?
I enjoyed my college years. I got to do that. Now remember, I was the first person in my family to go to college. Nobody else had done it. My mom hadn't done it. My dad hadn't done it. I had no cousins or anything or anybody to help to guide me on that. So it was a real learning experience. My parents had no experience with the FAFSA. I mean, they were, kind of curious and apprehensive about releasing that information, which I needed in order to apply for financial aid.
Right.
I went to UW-Madison. I didn't go to a HBCU. And so, a lot of the students at Madison, they come from Wisconsin and outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin is not all that diverse.
No.
And so when I got to Madison, I remember like yesterday at the student orientation, being there on campus. And again, my parents didn't know.
Right.
And so they weren't there. I was the only student there who did not have a parent, a guardian, a loved one, there at orientation. And, I'm there by myself, and I'm in the room, in the red gym. I'm the only African American student.
That doesn't sound fun. It must suck. Those types of situations must not be fun.
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun. And then I'm not a big drinker or anything like that. And so, the culture at Madison, right? It's a big party school. And so sometimes I felt like there were, 40,000 kids, young people in this one bubble. And then there was me in this other bubble by myself. But it was my school that selected it. And so I forced myself to stick around, because at first I was hopping on the Badger bus and I was coming back home every single weekend because I just felt like I didn't belong. So I had to push myself to stay, and to be engaged and to find my core group of friends who I'm still friends with to this day. And I found those folks in the dorms, that I stayed in. And so I actually stayed in the dorms, all 4 years, and I made a career out of it. I became an RA. And then the next year, one of the leaders of our residence hall, they left. And so I became the resident director, and I remained resident director, throughout my time, in I was going to say in office, in college. So I stayed in the dorms. I made a career out of it. I've got, great friends to this day. I had wonderful experiences, in Madison. My first spring break in college, was not to a beach in Florida. It was to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Because again, I started with the service with a Y. I studied abroad in London, working again with the YMCA with young people that, have been in trouble, with the law. They were at-risk youth. Took some of that time to visit, France, and Scotland, and did so many other wonderful things as well. It was good. I had to push myself to get there, but it was nice.
You're well traveled.
Where would you want to travel to next if you could pick?
If I could pick, gosh, I'm so busy. I don't even think about where I might.
They need to get you on
vacation.
Gosh, where would I want to go?
There's no wrong answer. Don't worry.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm so focused with, this job, and I travel enough, here. Like I've been in Chicago a couple times past, month, in DC, was in New York about a month ago, up to Manitowoc recently. So I get around enough. I haven't even really thought about it. I should probably ask my wife where she wants to go. That's a more important question.
Yeah, you're a smart man for saying that.
So you first ran for office in 2011 when you ran for a seat. on the County Board of Supervisors. You finished 5th. In 2012, you ran for a different seat on the county board, finishing 6th. What's it like? I mean, obviously things have worked out better for you now, but like early on, like losing, or those are the first times in like, coming up short. Like, how do you not get discouraged? I mean, how does like the process of like, well, I'm going to be back, things are going to work out eventually. So what's like your mindset at the time going into it? You probably know that it's a long shot and then it doesn't work out. So what's kind of like the feelings that go through you when all that happened?
Well, I did feel somewhat discouraged, having lost, back-to-back races. And, it's because I felt that at a young age, it was that this found me. Like I wasn't searching out for, my inspiration to go into politics or government. It kind of found me. And so to lose, the first race to be 5th, out of 5 candidates, and then the next time, to have gotten actually less votes.
Dang, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, I know. So it was a little disheartening, but you do not fail until you give up. And that's the sort of mindset that I had. Now I'll admit that I on the third time running, when I ran for alderman successfully, I thought to myself like, hey, I really hope this works. And yeah, I was a little apprehensive about doing it because I had lost, apprehensive about doing it because I had lost 2 times before, but I know that I had also learned lessons from those previous 2 races, and that I was applying them to that race in 2016 that I did win. And I thought that would, help me to pull it out. I was actually serving in the mayor's office. I wanted to get to government. I was in government. I was in the mayor's office. I was doing community outreach work. But then I packed my box up and I stood at the top of the landing on the 2nd floor of City Hall and looked back at the mayor's office and said, man, I've worked my entire life to get here. And now I'm stepping away to run for office again myself, even though I lost twice. That's because I had that sort of mindset that you haven't failed unless you gave up, and I wasn't ready to give up just yet.
And for viewers that don't know, what does an alderman do, or an alder person, if you will, do?
I kind of liken it to the federal government because I think many people understand that better. So at the federal government, you've got your 3 branches. You've got the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. Executive, of course, is the president. On the local level, the executive is the mayor. That's the position I hold now. The legislative branch, you've got Congress on the federal level, and then at the local level, you've got the Common Council. And so the Common Council is Milwaukee's legislative branch. They're the ones that come up with basically city laws, ordinances, resolutions. They pass those over to me as the mayor, and then I either sign off and approve them or I veto those pieces of legislation. They're in Milwaukee. They're essentially mayors of their district, so they're in charge and responsible for city services administered in their particular aldermanic districts.
Right. So yeah, in 2016 you won 2nd District Alderman, reelected in 2020, and then you became the acting mayor of Milwaukee when Tom Barrett resigned to assume the ambassadorship of Luxembourg. So first off, what exactly is he doing? What does the ambassador of Luxembourg do?
Across the world, the president of the United States has individuals on the ground, and it's not the president of the U.S. only. I mean, it's countries across the world. They've got ambassadors who work to make sure that their governments have a footing on the ground, building relationships with governments across the world and communities across the world. And that's what the former mayor, Tom Barrett, is doing right now. He was appointed by President Joe Biden to serve as you said, ambassador to Luxembourg, which, as I recall, when the news was breaking, was kind of a trivia question to a lot of folks. Like, what's Luxembourg? Where is that? I never heard of the place. Fortunately for me, I knew exactly where Luxembourg was.
You went to France, so yeah, you should. I hope so.
Well, even before that, because when I was in middle school, we had this geography trivia, and we were looking for the tiniest country in Europe or whatever. and Luxembourg, and I never forgot Luxembourg from when I was in middle school. And so when he got appointed there, I was like, I know where that is.
Yeah, I won my geography being 7th grade. 8th grade was a fluke. Alex Tanner, he stole it. So love geography.
So that was the end of last year when he resigned and took that position. I mean, when the news broke, I mean, it seemed like it was out of nowhere. I guess how long, if you're able to share, like, how long was it in the works that you were aware of what was going to happen?
I was council president, and so if he would be appointed to anything, then I would step up and be, mayor. There were rumors swirling around, certainly, but I didn't really put any stock into that. I was focused on doing my job as council president. And the reason for that is that, Tom Barrett was the first big city mayor in America to openly endorse Barack Obama when he was running for president, even when Hillary Clinton was still in the race. So, he came out and done that, and here still he sat for 2 terms of the Obama presidency. And so when rumors started swirling around again that he was going to go for an appointment, I'm like, he didn't go for 2 terms in Obama, so why should I believe that he's going to go anywhere with when Joe Biden's president? So right. I was focused on doing my work as council president. I had no heads up, I had no clue that this was going to happen. As a matter of fact, I was in the backyard, trying to have a green thumb. I hope the plants are alive still. Planting some flowers that my wife asked me to plant, and then my phone starts, just blowing up, because this news was breaking. And I was, sweaty and dirty. And then I came to find out that President Biden was tapping, Tom Barrett, to be the ambassador, but I had no heads up. I had no clue that was going to happen.
So were you like, damn, this is happening? This is real?
Yeah, essentially so. Yes.
Yeah. Would you, I mean, that'd be an exciting / terrifying phone call to get, right?
Kinda? Yeah.
So then, and so then the special mayoral election took place back in April. You won in a landslide, the 72%, as you said. For one, did you know during your campaign that you were pretty much going to wipe the floor with your opponent, so to speak? I mean, obviously politicians have a good idea of how their campaign's going, and I'm sure the data coming in and whatnot. So was it, I mean, obviously it probably felt pretty good knowing like, I think I might have this one in the bag, or is it still where you have to be cautiously optimistic at all times?
Listen, as we just discussed, I lost 2 elections. And I mean, there are other folks, as well who have run for office who have lost elections too. And so, I don't take anything for granted. Right. It's my goal when I'm running for office to be the hardest worker in the room. No one will outwork me. And that's exactly, the sort of mindset that I had, going into this election as well. So, even though I felt that we were on a good path, on a good trajectory, had a great chance to win, I didn't let my foot off the gas, and I never would in any election. If I'm running for office, you're going to get the best out of me and the best out of my campaign. And ultimately, we did win the election. When some of that polling information was coming in, that was fuel to the fire. That said, I needed to work even harder to keep it up. And then, additional polls kept coming out, and they kept showing that we were in the lead, and the lead was growing. And ultimately, those polls were true, and we won the primary election. That's the I believe 7-person primary election with 42% of the vote, and then followed up and won the general election with 72% of the vote.
Yeah, I've got a question about that. Some of your opponents, Lena Taylor, she has a Wikipedia profile picture. You do not. How do you feel about that? Even though that you're there and she's not.
You want us to, and we can add a picture for you if you want, I think.
Yeah, we've got, you tell us the one that we want, and we'll get it from you.
We can help you out, because I think that's BS that you don't have a picture on Wikipedia.
Come on, Mayor of Milwaukee, everyone should. Every mayor should.
That's funny. I don't know who controls, Wikipedia and does this stuff. Senator Taylor, she's been in office, and she's been very active in politics for nearly 20 years. So it doesn't surprise me that she's got, a picture and probably, more in-depth information on Wikipedia than even I do as mayor. But yeah, it'd be nice to have a picture on there, I suppose.
Yeah. And then you also ran against Marina, and I'm not going to even attempt to say her last name. She's a former Bayview alumni as well as you are. Did you have anybody that you knew kind of mutually between the two of you at all?
Oh yeah, I'm certain that we do. I mean, I can't think of anybody up top, but and I'll give you just in case you have her on one day. It's Dmitry Yevich. Dmitrievich.
Okay.
Dmitrievich. Yeah.
Okay. Dmitrievich. All right. And then last question I've got for you. I mean, I have more as well. If you would have won the election, where do you go from there? Like what title do you hold? Because you were on the Common Council, then Barrett left. So where would that have left you?
If I had lost the election?
If you had lost, yeah.
If I lost the election, I would have retained my position on the city council. So I still would have been second district alderman, and I still would have been common council president.
Right. Okay. All right.
I feel like you would have to try really hard to lose, like after being appointed and then having the special mayoral election. Like I feel like you would have had to do a lot of damage in those 3 months to like not have gotten like officially won.
Hey man, look, it's happened. Right?
Yeah.
Nearly 20 years ago, there was a similar situation where common council president became acting mayor, but did not win the election. There was the same sort of scenario. There was a very packed primary, but the council president, acting mayor, did not come out on top and win the election. So that's happened. But again, like I said, we in my races, for office, I'm going to put. Nobody's going to outwork me. And put the best foot forward. My campaign's going to do that, and we're going to win.
And I like, I would say, I mean, I go both sides. Whether I think most people that have like just the common sense idea. I think a lot of people have different, your political beliefs. They can be either one side or the other side, and not like all. You know what I mean? Like reasonable. And I feel like you were really good for the city. I mean, obviously, you're very mindful of like the social issues that take place at the city, but also, I mean, you came in immediately trying to figure out ways to your stand for, and I might have the name wrong here, but you came into this right off the bat being very passionate about doing something about the reckless driving, helping the police be able to do their job better. So I guess, and that was a good, that's a huge issue. Like, it's so bad, and I don't know what do you think makes people, is it just the lack of caring about themselves, caring about other people? Like, it blows my mind just seeing the way that some people drive in the city. And so I don't know, what the solution is, but I'm wondering, I guess, what is your thought process? I think it was really important that you led with that. That was one of your big moves right off the bat. So.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And it was important to lead with that because that's the number one thing that citizens in Milwaukee are concerned about. They're concerned about public safety, and they're really concerned about the issue of reckless driving. So we did introduce our Stand for Safer Streets program, and there are a lot of things that comprise that. One, we're working to make sure that there's safer street design. We're supporting the police in terms of traffic enforcement. We're asking for accountability for folks who break the traffic law. We're engaging our neighbors throughout the city, to see what their desires are in this. And then we're demanding progress from some of our other partners that have jurisdiction on streets in Milwaukee. Like, for instance, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, which has jurisdiction over these streets like Capitol Drive, which are technically state highways that bisect through the city of Milwaukee. We've also empowered the police to be able to tow vehicles that are driving recklessly using some greater technology that allows sworn officers to stay up to get back on the street, not sit around and wait for a tow for hours and hours and hours on end. We're working to make physical improvements to the roadway. The Department of Public Works is taking an active approach on that right now. We're working to make sure that we install better bicycle infrastructure in the city. One, to get folks out on bikes and make sure that bicyclists and other folks have safer uses of the roadway. But then two, that built infrastructure becomes a mitigating factor for folks who are trying to drive recklessly on our streets as well. We've got this bait car initiative. You look at some of the cars that are driving recklessly. Sometimes, unfortunately, those cars are stolen. So we're actually out there baiting with cars around the city to catch people who are stealing cars and taking on that sort of activity.
Right.
There are a number of reasons why I think folks make the decision to drive in that sort of manner. A lot of folks have cited the pandemic and a lot of cars not being on the road, and then people having straight shots, and then just not bringing that back in as more cars have gotten back on the road since COVID has subsided in the way that it has, and we've got the vaccines. So that's one. I think two. One of the things that you touched on about a lack of hope and not thinking about tomorrow is another thing. If you're not if you've got nothing to look forward to tomorrow, what's it to you to drive recklessly and endanger your life and therefore the lives of others today?
Yeah.
So we got to work to make sure that folks in Milwaukee have access to some hope for tomorrow. And then another thing that I think is a huge contributing factor to this is that with a former police chief some years ago, the city of Milwaukee did not enforce when people were driving recklessly. We had a no pursuit policy. And so, I worked with a number of council members to put some pressure on the police department, the Fire and Police Commission, to change that policy, to give police some more latitude to chase folks. And do I want to see, high-speed chases on the street? No. But I think that if you take your foot off the gas, for lack of a better term, and you allow, people to do whatever it is that they want on the road without any enforcement, then that's going to tell them that, hey, I can do whatever I want. I can drive with impunity and nobody's going to stop me. As a story, I had police officers when I was an alderman who would come up to me and say, folks would pull up to them at a red light, flip them off, and because they hadn't committed a violent felony crime, they would proceed to go through a red light or a stop sign or the like. I can't have that in this city. I don't want that in this city. And by the way, the constituents of Milwaukee don't want that either. So there has to be a couple of different avenues to address it. The physical infrastructure, these other things where we're towing vehicles away that participate in reckless driving activity, but then also traffic enforcement, right, when folks break the law. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us now, we have the biggest guest of all time in the show's history, Mayor Cavalier Johnson. So, would you say, like, on the political spectrum, to me, you seem like you're pretty moderate. I don't know if that's like an insult. I think that's a good thing. So I guess is there pressure? You look around the country and, I guess everyone seems like falls on different parts of the political spectrum. But I feel like a lot of the things that you are passionate about and what you ran on, I feel like they could be considered both left and right leaning, whatever that means. So I guess, how do you classify yourself?
Look, I'm a Democrat. I'm proudly a Democrat.
Right.
But I'm not, I'm not a far left Democrat. Right. If that, for listeners, if that better helps them to understand, where I land politically. So I would say I'm left of center.
Right.
But close to center though, middle left. And I think, quite frankly, that's where the vast majority of Milwaukeeans, the vast majority of Wisconsinites, and the vast majority of Americans are.
Yeah.
Look, folks want progress, and I want progress too. But you have to be able to understand that there's a complete other side out there. You have to be able to strike an accord. You have to be able to get to a consensus, and that's how you get progress. If you put yourself out there to a position that nobody else can come to, well, then you're not going to get progress. Like I'm a progressive that likes to get things done though. And in order to get things done, you have to bring folks in. And the same thing is true, by the way, of folks, on the far right, whether it's, far left or far right, you're going to have a really hard time bringing folks in. And you think about it, in terms of politics in the United States, this way with, all this fringe sort of activity, you can't give somebody a hug if your arms are stretched, to the far left or the far right. You've got to bring them in order to do that. And that's what I want to do in Milwaukee. And I think we need to see more of that, and in Washington as well.
Right. So I guess I have to ask, sorry, are you excited about the Republican National Convention coming to town, or a little bit,
I think it's good I think money coming into the city is good. So that's my stance on it. I don't know. I know some people, I guess, how do you feel about it?
Well, look, first and foremost, I should say I was on the city council when Milwaukee won the nod to host the Democratic National Convention, and I was super excited.
That was a bummer. The pandemic happened. That was a bummer.
Yeah, it really was. And I'm a Democrat, and I wanted to see that. That's where my values lie. And it was going to be, untold tens of millions of dollars of economic infusion into Milwaukee. And you're right, Kyle, that, a lot of folks were bummed out when that didn't happen. Now, am I excited about bringing the RNC to Milwaukee? Yeah, I am. As a matter of fact, I worked really hard in order to bring the RNC here because.
And did you get heat for that? Like being, I guess, wanting to host it? Like, do you have a lot of pushback on that?
Yeah. I mean, look, Milwaukee's a strong Democratic city, right? And so there are going to be, some individuals that don't necessarily want to see that. And I understand that. However, at the same time too, I've got to think about the economy of Milwaukee. And I think about it in terms of a business decision, not a political decision, because again, I'm not, on that side of the aisle. I don't subscribe to their platform, at all. But to me, it's more about the future as opposed to about a singular moment in time. We land the RNC. We allow for businesses and the people who live here to capture some of those economic impact opportunities that did not come to fruition with the DNC. And then we set ourselves up. We set ourselves up because we'll have the eyes and the attention of the entire country and the entire world on Milwaukee. And that in turn will entice more large-scale events, political conventions, other large-scale conventions, sports and entertainment events to come to Milwaukee, which will create a positive economic feedback loop for businesses and employees right here in Milwaukee for years and years to come. That's what I'm thinking about when drawing the RNC here.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, whether it's the DNC or the RNC, like just bringing it. You can't, I think fair is fair. I think both sides have the right to be represented. And yeah, just purely from a business perspective, like what kind of mayor, it'd be stupid to turn down, like hosting either one, right? It's like a no-brainer.
Exactly. And by the way, there were a lot of big name, local, Milwaukee area, Wisconsin, Republicans, big names in the Republican Party who were supportive of the Democratic National Convention. Not just folks on the ground, but folks in business, even, Scott Walker as well was supportive of the Democratic National Convention, coming to Milwaukee. And there were a lot of big time, Republicans who were supporting that. And they're also supporting this, and Democrats also, big name Democrats also supporting the RNC, happening here because, folks of common sense and right mind, I think, understand the financial impact and the opportunity to yield other large-scale events to support our economy in the future.
Yeah, unfortunately, not everyone is as smart as us three and thinks logically, I guess.
As smart as you
say. So back to reckless driving. So I had told you that we interviewed a Milwaukee YouTuber. Are you familiar with have you seen the Kia Boys documentary?
I have.
So Tommy, his name is Tommy G. We've had him on our show twice. He was aware. He had heard that the documentary had made its way around, in the city as far as people in the police departments, people in politics. So I guess what was your reaction to that? It's silly, right? It's like what's the solution, right?
Yeah. It was when I saw it, and I saw the actions that were taking place. I thought it was reckless, it was dangerous, it was stupid, but it was also sad. At the same time that so many young people did not have the regard for their own safety, for the people that were in the cars with them, and for the folks whose property they were stealing, taking away, hard-earned property that folks out there are busting their tail in order to get, and then to turn around and drive recklessly and endanger themselves and other people too. It's sad. Part of the reason why we launched a program was in direct response to that sort of that sort of activity, the Kia Boys sort of activity in the city. So this summer we launched a program called Camp Rise, which is an offshoot of our summer youth jobs program, the Earn and Learn summer youth jobs program, because I know that the Kia Boys and groups like that, they'll go and recruit kids, really young kids to do this. And so we created a program where we could get kids as young as 10 years old and present an opportunity for them to get a stipend, to put some money in their pocket the right way and have some mentorship and do some community cleanup. They're actually giving back and supporting our community, making it better as a direct response to that. And we had 200 kids that were part of this initial pilot program, and we had more than I believe significantly more than that were interested, but unfortunately we just didn't have the funding to accommodate everybody. But there are kids out there who want a different path, who want a different way forward, who want to have that hope that we were talking about. And I'm hopeful that, in the years, to come, we can continue providing opportunities for young people in Milwaukee to be able to take that sort of path in life as opposed to the Kia Boys path in life.
Yeah. And how do you see them kind of coming to an end, whether it be through the legal system or just kind of like they get older and realize that this isn't fun anymore? Like, what do you see in the future for that?
I think there's certainly both of those, but there's also got to be some accountability for folks in their own lives. Look, all these kids are our kids. All of us have a responsibility. I often say, look, it's got to be teachers, it's got to be preachers, it's got to be parents, it's got to be friends, it's got to be mentors, it's got to be everybody wrapping their arms around these young people and working to make sure that they go onto a better path in life. So, whether it's their parents or loved ones taking a more active role and getting them away from that sort of activity, that's one. And I think that's one that we really need to put an emphasis on. The other thing is making sure that if that's not happening at home, that we provide opportunities like I just talked about with Camp Rise or Earn and Learn or some of the youth engagement programs we have in the libraries or any of our great nonprofit organizations in Milwaukee, like the YMCA that I was a part of growing up, Boys and Girls Club, or the United Neighborhood Centers of Milwaukee. So many other great organizations. The faith-based community in Milwaukee, wrapping their arms around these young people and getting them involved in a good way. But then also, and I've said this time and again, if it comes down to it, the law enforcement system, because if people cause death, harm, or destruction in Milwaukee, that's not something that we can tolerate. And so that's what we have a police force for, and I fully expect that in a judicial system. And if folks do break the law and they hurt somebody, they kill somebody, then they got to be held accountable for that.
Yeah, definitely. Did you ever consider figuring out a way to just ban Kias?
That's a little bit above my power as mayor.
I like that.
I don't know. I feel like you have to explore all your options. I don't know if that was one that was on the table. Do you have now that you're mayor, do you have access to a bunch of top secret, super cool Milwaukee information?
I don't know if we have top secret information. I
don't know.
But we don't have there are no aliens or mermaids in Lake Michigan or anything like that.
Yeah, that actually was my next question. So hypothetically, say a sea monster comes out of Lake Michigan and attacks the city. Is there a plan in place in the event that happened? Is that something that you got a plan for everything? We live on a body of water.
If a sea monster starts rearing its head out of Lake Michigan, we'll call up the folks who deal with the Loch Ness monster. They seem to keep that put away pretty well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I just thought I had to ask that. So, do you have a favorite speech that you've ever given?
A favorite speech that I've ever given? I hadn't really thought about that. The first one that comes to mind, and maybe it comes to mind just because I heard a snippet of it just the other day because I had gotten an award from Running Rebels Community Organization, which does great work, and that's another group that does great work in Milwaukee. I heard a snippet of my election night speech, and that one I would say is probably my favorite. And maybe it's not the speech necessarily. I haven't listened to it again myself, but I remember though, being there on election night, and the first person that I saw was a young man who I had seen at church, a couple days before, at Holy Redeemer, and he had asked his grandmother to come down to our election night victory party, because he got to see me as mayor, not me, Cavalier Johnson, as mayor, but he got to see me, a black man, somebody who looks like him, as mayor. Right? That I think is extremely powerful for so many young people in Milwaukee. I mean, we're a city that's over 65% person of color, and for kids to be able to see their own reflection in the highest office in this city is powerful. And of anything that I said that night, that's what I remember the most about it. And I see it every day when I go across the city and I talk to kids. I love having the opportunity to engage with kids, because then they start thinking, they start seeing, like, man, if he's there, and he came from the same sort of neighborhood that we did, then I can do it too. That's powerful to me.
Do you ever watch your stuff back, like appearances you made? Or are you one of those types that you don't have going back and watching yourself do speeches and do stuff like that?
I occasionally will go back and watch something. And it's so busy. Like I've got this, like I said, this huge job, this huge responsibility. And then I also have another, huge job and responsibility, because I'm a husband. We'll be married, Dominique and I, for 6 years this October, and I'm a dad as well. I've got an 11-year-old. Oh, I'm sorry, he just turned 12. 12-year-old son and a 4-year-old twin daughters. So every time that I'm engaged in something, whether it's at work or it's at home, I've got huge responsibilities that are very important to me. Whether it's taking care of our extended family in the city, or my own immediate family at home. So I try to, but I don't always get the chance to.
Right. How did you meet your wife?
I met my wife, actually. Remember I told you the YMCA was so influential in my life, and that's how I got started on this path. That's also where I met my wife, at the YMCA. She was an instructor, and she can teach anything: Zumba, yoga, kickboxing. She can do it all. She's way tougher than I am. And she was teaching a Zumba class, and I can't dance. And so I go teaching I'm going inside the Zumba class. I'm trying to get this girl's attention. It worked out because she married me.
So you were, as they say, hot for teacher.
Hot for teacher.
Yes, I was.
That's awesome. What is their experience? I guess, how do they feel, your family feel, about you being married?
My wife was never really, she was never really involved in the politics. Now she entertains me, because I come home and I'm, just kind of, debrief her on low. She asks me about the day, and then I go on to a longer tangent that she probably cares about. But she entertains me, and she understands that I've got this big, huge responsibility. She knew that I was going on this path in life, when we first met. So she's understanding, but she's never really been a public person. She does entertain me and goes out to things and stuff like that, and I'm really appreciative of it. My son, he's 12, right? So he can't let me know that it's cool. But deep down, he knows it's cool. He thinks it's cool. And then my daughters, they watch Paw Patrol. You guys know Paw Patrol, that show?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know.
You're a fan, Chris?
I know what it is. I've seen an episode too. TV got stuck.
And so they're two mayors in the show, these two opposing towns, Mayor Goodway and Mayor Humdinger. And when I got elected, they didn't believe I was mayor, because I didn't look like or sound like Mayor Humdinger or Mayor Goodway. So to them, I'm just a guy, and Mayor Humdinger and Mayor Goodway are the real mayors.
Did your friends?
I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's interesting cities in America that actually have like a dog or a cat as a mayor just for show, but it's like a legitimate thing.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. I don't know how well that would work out here though.
No, probably. For the people that have known you for a long time, I guess, they've watched your journey and rising the ranks in politics. Have you feel like any of your relationships with people on a personal level have changed since you becoming mayor? Like people just in your personal life? But obviously I've always known this has been your passion of what you're doing. I guess, do you ever feel like people treat you differently or anything like that? Like, what's that experience? Obviously becoming the mayor is a huge deal, a lot of responsibility.
No, I don't. As I said earlier, I've been on this path in life since I was a 14-year-old boy. So I don't know as people are necessarily surprised that I'm here. And you asked earlier on, do you call me mayor? Do you call me Cavalier? Do you call me Chevy? I mean, everybody, they still just call me Chevy. I mean, they still call me or text me on my same phone number that I've had for a billion years. So none of that stuff has changed. And I don't want it to change. I can't allow for my head to get big or to have an ego because of the job that I have. And if I did, I tell you, those people will call me out on it. I don't at all. I see this. I mean, this is the job that I have, and it's a job that I have the privilege and honor to have and to execute on behalf of the people of Milwaukee. But it's not who I am. And I think the people in my life personally understand that.
Do you have any, like, when you're out in public, I guess, are people genuinely, are they pretty respectful, or have you had some bad experience? I mean, I know it's got to suck if you're out with your family and someone chooses that specific moment to give you a piece of their mind or something. I'm sure that's probably happened before, but I guess nowadays, what's it like being out in public, would you say? Showing a lot of love?
Yeah. My interactions with people all across the city have just been great, and they remain to be great. Now, occasionally, sometimes, somebody will say, "Hey, I see you out there," even if I'm, with my family or the like, and they may decide to do something. But my thought is this: like, if you have a quip with me or a problem with me, you can come here to City Hall. I'm here. You can come talk to me here. Don't approach me when I'm out with my family, especially if you're going to, do something that, makes my wife uncomfortable or scares my kids, things like that. Like that's crossing a line. And
Definitely.
that's not something that I would tolerate, or that I think anybody should tolerate, because at the end of the day, just because you get elected, that doesn't take away the fact that you're a human being and that you got a family, and folks ought to respect that.
Has anyone come to you?
Folks are great.
Yeah.
Has anyone come to you talking about the the parking meters? Because I've gotten a lot of tickets in the past, having to pay. You go to certain parts of the city of Milwaukee parking, but you go to certain parts of the city and it's cheaper in some places, it's more expensive in the other. Yet it's the same. It's the same. It's the city of Milwaukee, so I don't understand how it can be different. And I don't know if you want to change that or address that issue. But
ban all parking tickets, Chris? Is that what you're looking for?
No, it's not about the parking tickets. It's so you go to Brady Street. You go, a quarter gets you about 15 minutes. You park down by the Fiserv, a quarter gets you 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. I don't understand that at all.
Well, it's like when you're riding in an Uber, right? And at a premium time, right?
I don't like how this is going. I'll let you finish.
That's what it is, essentially, right? I mean, if there's an opportunity for us to be able to draw in more revenue to provide services, by the way, in certain places like that, we want for people to pay for their meters, but then also to move around so that we can keep the flow of the economy going. Because if we kept it the same and folks just, parked, all day, that's stopping another person from being able to come down and park and also spend money at a business. So we have to keep, that sort of stuff moving. Another thing is, hey, look, folks could take public transportation, right?
Chris.
Do it that way. Then you don't have to worry about parking.
I gotta side with Cavalier on this.
Okay. Yeah. We can talk about it after.
So when you were growing up and wanting to be in politics, and I mean, was mayor, and then you were working around the mayor for a long time, was mayor always the job that you were aspiring to be? Like growing up in Milwaukee, was that, I guess, or do you have higher hopes? Are you allowed to say?
Well, actually, it's funny because right now talking about a calling, I'm getting a call right now. The demands of the job are actually calling on me right now. But I guess to answer this question here, look, I have always wanted to go into office because I thought it was an opportunity to serve people. And anytime there's been an opportunity for me to step up and do that, I have, whether that was for county board, back in the day for alderman, and now as mayor. And to give you a very political answer,
I figured I was going to get a political answer.
I'm 35 years old, right?
Yeah.
So I've got, the rest of my life in front of me. I don't intend to stay, mayor forever, and nobody can, right? But I am focused, every single day. I wake up energized to do this job and to serve the people of Milwaukee. That's what I'm focused on right now. I'm not thinking about, what comes next or if anything comes next. I'm focused on doing this job right here, right now, every day for the people of Milwaukee. And Milwaukeeans deserve a mayor who's going to be focused in on doing this job every day, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
Maybe you would be able to stay forever if you want to. Who knows?
Possibly.
You never know. Well, Chris, I think we probably got to let the mayor get back to running the city. Did you have fun? Did you enjoy talking to us?
Yeah, no, you guys have been great. It's been a great conversation. I'm hoping that down the line maybe we could chat again.
Yeah, I've got one last question, if you don't mind. Just
it better not be about parking again.
No, it's not. In the day of life, where are you going for lunch? What's lunch like today?
Where am I going for lunch? Usually lunch is hit or miss. Many days I don't even get the chance to eat lunch because I'm just boom, 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 boom.
You gotta take care of yourself. Come on, we need you.
I know. Maybe I'll go downstairs to there's a cafeteria in the city hall, so maybe I'll go down there and have a salad. Is usually what I'll do.
All right. Well, Mayor Cavalier Johnson, thank you so much. Yeah, we would love to have you on the show again. We appreciate your time.
All right, Chris, Kyle, thanks a lot. You guys, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Yeah, talk to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye now.